22 minutes into the first match of the World Cup, England a goal up, the game in full flow, the players jogged off the pitch. Nobody was hurt. Nothing had stopped the game. They just left. And 80,000 people in Dallas began to boo. It was a hydration break for the heat, except the roof was shut, the air conditioning was running, and the heat that break existed to fight was nowhere inside that building. One supporter put it like this: roof closed, air conditioners on. So why are they going on a hydration break? I hate this American World Cup. That match would finish 4-2. A classic. But the thing people are still talking about isn't the 4 goals, it's the booing. Because here's what nobody in that stadium knew yet. The break that made them boo wasn't really about water, and the reason it exists had already made one television network an estimated $250 million before the second half even kicked off. This is the World Cup FIFA promised you. Here's the part they left out. 8 years ago, FIFA's president stood in the White House and called this the greatest World Cup that would ever be staged. And on paper, look at what they built. They took a 32-team tournament and made it 48. They took a 64-match tournament and made it 104. $11 billion of projected revenue. 6 billion people reached, and I want to be precise about that word because FIFA was. Not 6 billion viewers, 6 billion engagements. Likes, clips, scrolls. We're going to be honest about the numbers tonight in both directions. By every number FIFA can count, this is the biggest thing the sport has ever attempted. But a World Cup has never been judged on the numbers FIFA can count. It's judged on the ones they can't. And 1 week in, the number nobody scripted was the sound of 80,000 people deciding they'd been sold something that wasn't quite true. To understand why they'd boo a water break, you have to follow the water. And the water leads somewhere expensive. Because first, I owe FIFA a fair hearing. The hydration breaks are not made up. More than a year before kickoff, researchers at Queen's University Belfast published a peer-reviewed study warning that 14 of the 16 host venues would cross the heat threshold where the human body starts to fail, and that FIFA's own line for postponing a match was set dangerously high. That is a real concern. Players genuinely collapse in open stadiums in June. In Kansas City, at 3 in the afternoon, that 90-second break might be the most important thing on the pitch. So when FIFA says these breaks protect players, they are not lying to you. But the very first break of this World Cup didn't happen in the heat. It happened in Dallas, under a closed roof, with the air conditioning on. The rule that's right almost everywhere was applied in the one room where it made no sense. And the fans heard the difference instantly. The break wasn't wrong because water is wrong. It was wrong because that night in that building, it so obviously wasn't about water. So what was it about? Then a man who'd spent his whole life inside the game put words to it. Ian Wright, former England striker, now a pundit, watched those breaks and said what the broadcasters wouldn't. They were, and I'm quoting him, another way of getting adverts into it. From an American point of view. There was no way, he said, that the American network hadn't had a hand in it, so follow it. In the United States, the rights-holding network cut to full-screen commercials during every single break. The rate, around $200,000 for 30 seconds in the early rounds, closer to $750,000 when the host nation plays. Across 104 matches, the estimate lands near $250 million. Hold that against what they paid. That network paid $480 million for the rights to show you this World Cup. They're on track to make back more than half of it, selling you things during the water breaks. And the breaks did one more thing. They quietly cut the basic shape of football, 2 halves, into 4 quarters. 4 commercial windows where there used to be none. And here's what makes it a choice, not a conspiracy. Not everyone reached for the money. In Britain, the BBC ran no ads at all. Its charter forbids them. Its commercial rival held the meetings, weighed the airtime and walked away from it. And in the very same American market as the network cashing in, the Spanish-language broadcaster showing the same matches ran no break ads either. One of them used those 3 minutes to teach the game. Another used them to sell it. Nobody broke a rule, and that is the whole point. FIFA built the window. What you put in it is up to you. There's a rule for the heat. There is no rule for the temptation. Every ruling FIFA can defend and nobody can reverse. That's what this channel follows, all the way to the final in July. Subscribe and come with us. Because the water break was the small story. The next one isn't about money at all. There's a question underneath that water break, and once you've asked it, it attaches to everything. Who was this decision actually for? Because that same week, the week of the booing, the World Cup told two countries to take their own history off their own shirts. One of them had to win its way here in exile from a country it couldn't even play in, and then was told that the proudest thing it had to say was the one thing it wasn't allowed to wear. That's the part I haven't been able to put down, but start with the simpler one. Egypt arrived at this World Cup with 7 stars stitched above the badge. 7 stars for 7 African championships, the most any nation in Africa has ever won. 53 years of it, from 1957 to 2010. Then FIFA told them to take the stars off. FIFA's rule is clear, and it's consistent. Stars above a national crest are reserved for World Cup wins. Egypt has never won a World Cup, so by the letter of it, the stars can't stand. And to be fair to the timeline, FIFA didn't spring this at the last second. They'd raised it months earlier. The story only became public days before kickoff. Technically, FIFA is right. But ask the question this whole video keeps asking. Who is that rule for? And the answer isn't Egypt. 7 titles, 53 years of winning, unpicked by a directive because they were the wrong trophies. And if that one feels technical, a rule about which silverware counts, the next one isn't technical at all. On Haiti's shirt for this World Cup, there was a battle, the Battle of Vertières, the 18th of November, 1803, the last great battle of the Haitian Revolution. The day a colony of enslaved people broke an empire's army on an open field. Weeks later, they declared themselves free. The first Black Republic, the only nation in history founded by a successful uprising of the enslaved. The kit maker, a small Colombian brand, called the image a tribute, not a statement. A tribute. FIFA called it political imagery and banned it. And here's the part I haven't been able to put down. Haiti couldn't even play its qualifiers at home. Gang violence made it impossible. So they played the whole campaign in exile, a team with no country to play in, a coach who led them for 2 years and never once set foot in Haiti. And after half a century away, their first World Cup since 1974, they finally won their place back. On the 18th of November, 222 years. To the day, they didn't choose that date. History did. They won their way back to the World Cup on the anniversary of the day they won their freedom, and were told that day was too political to wear. A piece in The Conversation, scholars who study that revolution called the ban part of a long campaign to play down what Haiti did in 1803. I'll let them make that argument. I'll just leave you with the 2 dates. A rule on a page bans politics from a football shirt, and a country is told that its own founding is the political thing it cannot say. Egypt and Haiti, 2 countries, 1 week, but the shape of this is bigger than 2 shirts. Stack up everything that happened in those 7 days, and the same thing is underneath all of it. Start with a man who came to enforce FIFA's own rules. A referee flown in to officiate this tournament turned away at a Miami airport, valid visa, his own country caught on a travel ban that touched 39 nations, several of them with teams playing in the tournament. FIFA's referee stopped at the border of FIFA's World Cup. Then the tickets. When these countries bid to host, they promised the cheapest seat at the final would cost $1,550. The cheapest standard final ticket this year came in just under $6,000. The top of the range, just under $11,000. One reseller listed a single ticket for more than $2 million. 2 American states have opened investigations into the pricing, and the host cities keep almost none of it. FIFA collects the tickets and the broadcast and the sponsors. The cities collect the bill and paid $60 million in tax breaks for the privilege of holding it. 12 of the last 14 World Cups lost their hosts money. Then the water bottles. At a tournament FIFA itself said was dangerously hot, fans were told they couldn't carry their own reusable bottles in. Britain's Prime Minister said out loud what a lot of people were thinking. I can't help but think it's about making money. FIFA reversed it, and for all the talk of a sold-out, record-breaking tournament, the cameras kept finding whole blocks of empty seats, the cheap ones priced out, the corporate ones unfilled, while FIFA explained that spectators simply move around. And underneath all of it, the money arrived like never before. A record near $3 billion sponsorship haul sold out completely, with partners that now include a state oil company and the airline of the last host nation. With 40 more matches to sell, the totals broke every record FIFA had. And here's the quiet irony buried in the record. The value of each individual match to its broadcasters actually fell. The whole was worth more only because there was simply more of it. Every one of these has a defense. Dynamic pricing is normal, tax breaks lure big events. Visas are the government's call, not FIFA's. But line them up, 1 week, 1 tournament, and the defenses stop mattering. Because the question was never whether each one is legal, it's this. If you're a fan or a referee or a whole country, and one of these lands on you, who do you call? And here's the part that makes this hard to write. Because the football has been magnificent. In Kansas City, a 38-year-old played in his 6th World Cup, the first man ever to do that, and scored a hat-trick that pulled him level with the all-time World Cup scoring record. He didn't break it, he drew level with it at 38, in what everyone assumes is his last one. The same week, Norway walked back onto the World Cup stage for the first time in 28 years, and won, their young striker burying 2 goals on his very first World Cup night. England beat Croatia 4-2 in an opener that had no business being as good as it was. 3 countries, 3 kinds of joy in a single week. A 38-year-old chasing a record everyone assumed was untouchable. A nation walking in from a generation in the cold. A kid announcing himself to the world. This is the stuff people fall in love with the game for in the first place. The football is everything FIFA promised it would be. And that is exactly why the rest of it matters. The greatest World Cup ever was never a promise about goals. The goals were always coming. It was a promise about who the thing belongs to. So here's what every one of these stories has in common. It isn't that FIFA broke the rules. Mostly they didn't. It's that FIFA can hand you a reason for every single one. The heat study, the stars rule, the imagery rule, the pricing model, the visa policy. And a reason is all you will ever get. There is a channel to sell this World Cup to 6 billion people. There is no channel to say no to it. That's the gap, not a scandal. A scandal has a villain you can name. This is colder than that. It's an absence between a body that can do anything and everyone it does it to who can do nothing back. Nobody actually booed the water. They booed the gap. They just didn't have a word for it yet. And that absence has a face. Something that will happen for the first time in 96 years, once in July, that FIFA is calling historic. It's the most honest symbol of everything we just talked about. For 96 years, the World Cup final never had a halftime show. The game was the show. This July, at the final in New Jersey, for the first time ever, there will be one. Pop's biggest names, a stadium spectacle, FIFA calling it historic. And maybe it will be. But think about what it is. The one event that never needed entertaining at halftime now will. Not because the football got worse, because the real estate got valuable. So go back to that fan in Dallas, roof closed, air conditioning on, $250 million moving through a water break. And Haiti, told to leave its own history at the door. Every one of those has a rule behind it. Not one has a number you can call. So I genuinely want your answer, the hydration breaks, and all of it. Player safety, a commercial goldmine, or both at once, which might be the most honest answer there is. Tell me below. I read everyone. And if your answer is both, tell me whether that makes it okay. We'll be following every story FIFA didn't put in the brochure all the way to the final. Subscribe and come with us. A World Cup at this scale only happens once. And the part worth remembering might not be the part they're selling you.